There's really no way around it. I've done a lot of houseplant shopping this year, and that's all fine and good. Problem is, after a while, I start to get bored of the houseplants that are here locally in Phoenix, Arizona. So this weekend, when I found myself with a couple hours of free time, I decided that I was going to travel a little bit to do some houseplant shopping. But because my schedule's been so jam-packed, I had to pick somewhere that was somewhat close. And that's when I remembered last year when I was on a road trip, I drove through this little town called Jerome, Arizona, and there was this nursery right outside town that I was dying to go to, but we just didn't have time to stop. The thing is, Jerome is not your average little town. It was founded in 1876 as a mining town, and while at one point it was one of the biggest cities in Arizona, over time the mines dried up and it became a ghost town. On top of its low population, over time Jerome has gained a reputation for being a haunted place inside Arizona, with hundreds of people reporting encounters of paranormal activity there. The thing is though, as somebody who loves to explore the abandoned buildings, and the idea in the back of my mind that there was this awesome nursery that I just had to go to made the trip all that more appealing. Now if you watched my last video doing houseplant tours, you might know that I implemented this new weird rule for myself where if I buy new houseplants, I have to first have cleaned all my outstanding houseplant chores. In the morning, I hustled to get all those outstanding plant chores that I had queued up for the week done, and around noon I was ready to head out on my journey. Now from where I am, the drive to Jerome was about an hour and a half, and it's mostly throughway driving, so it's pretty easy to get on out there. And while I would say most people outside of Arizona aren't familiar with Jerome, if you are coming into town, it's a really cool off the beaten path place to visit that you can definitely fit into your vacation if you are coming into the Phoenix area. Traffic was surprisingly late and I was making great time. And just as I had gotten off the throughway in a town called Cottonwood, I noticed a Home Depot on the side of the road, and if you're anything like me, I cannot pass up a Home Depot that I drive past, especially if it's one that I've never been to before. And I know a lot of you guys in the comments section who are from Arizona, when I go to Home Depots or Lowe's in Phoenix, you guys always mention that the things that I have at my Lowe's are so different from what you guys have at other parts of the valley. So I really just had to put this to the test myself and see how different it was in there. As soon as I started approaching the outside, I started to get excited. If you're somebody who regulars Home Depots or Lowe's, you'll know that certain ones, just like the people who work there, I don't know, they just take really good care of the plants, and then other ones, they just don't really seem to care. But right away, I could tell that this was a location where the people that work there really took great care of the plant, which is always a plus. And before we even got inside the Home Depot, I actually had things in my cart already. Now my strategy is I always start on the outdoor plant section, and then I save the indoor house plants for last. As I started walking up and down the aisles, that theory that Home Depots in different parts of Arizona having very different plants was 100% confirmed for me. Whereas here in Phoenix, we have a much larger selection of cacti and succulents, I couldn't help but notice right away there was a ton of pine trees in here. Now some of you guys might not think that these are super exciting, but I've driven through most of the state of Arizona and I have absolutely fallen in love with the ponderosa pine trees. I think they're just so cool, they're so beautiful. I love the long needles on it, and as I kept shopping around, while I don't think they were ponderosa pines, they had things that were very similar, and I just thought they were so cool. Now we don't carry anything like that in Phoenix, and while I wanted to buy one so bad, I ended up holding off because my thought is if they don't carry them in Phoenix, chances are it's probably not going to survive the long term. I do want to do a little more research into this because I am going up north in a couple of weeks again, so maybe I'll end up getting one. But particularly if you live in Phoenix and happen to have ever strangely had success with growing a pine here, I would love to hear your experience so I can consider getting one next time I go back. Anyway, we browsed the rest of the outdoor houseplant section and I found a few treasures that I was really excited about. And then it was time to go inside. Now I will admit, when I went inside, it was a little underwhelming. There wasn't too many crazy things in there, although one thing I did think was pretty funny was that actually most of the plants that they stocked inside of there were from the plant stand of Arizona, which if you're not familiar, it's this big local nursery in Phoenix. I actually have a full video of a houseplant haul that I did there, so go check that one out after this one. But it was just kind of funny to me that the plants from the plant stand of Arizona were stocked 2 hours away from Phoenix. I guess in the grand scheme of things, most plants that are stocked at Home Depot probably come way farther than 2 hours away, but anyway, there was this one Dieffenbachia that as soon as I walked in there, it caught my eye. To me, it kind of looked like a crocodile. Honestly, I'm not sure what variety it is specifically because in typical plant stand of Arizona fashion, the label just said something like foliage plant, not super helpful. Problem is when I first saw it, I only saw one of them and it was in one of those like packaged 10-inch ceramic pots, which means that they double the price of the plant and you don't have the option to buy the plant without the pot. So maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, that sounds great, then you have a pot, but I tend not to like pots that come from the plant stand of Arizona. I also understand that this sounds very nitpicky. It's probably just me. But anyway, I kept circling around just to make sure that there wasn't anything I missed. And then I saw it tucked behind a couple other plants. They had one of the dumb canes that I was looking for, not sold inside one of those ceramic pots, so I was able to purchase it. Now real quick, I just want to show you guys a haul of everything that I got while I was at Home Depot. What was this canna? Now I'm not sure how well it'll pick up on camera, but it just bloomed a couple days ago. It's a little past the peak right now, so it's not looking as hot. But this foliage on the canna. It's not the Canna Tropicana. I'm not actually sure what variety this is, but it's kind of just like this milky yellow striping on the leaves, and I thought it was really striking. And while I didn't get this while I was at Home Depot specifically, I actually just got this pot at Lowe's, and if you're watching this video when it comes out, they're currently having a sale on all of their patio stuff. It includes a ton of great pots, so definitely run over there. I think I got this one for like $13 or something, and when I bought it, I didn't even have anything to put inside of it, but I think that this canna looks really cool in here, and I really like the pot. Next up, I got two little guys from outside. First one being this Polka Dot Plant. I've had a ton of these before. I always actually tend to kill them because if you forget to water them for like just a couple days, they completely die and are super dramatic. But anyway, you guys might remember in a recent Steve's Leaves unboxing, I had this little terrarium, and the begonia that I got from them ended up not fitting in there. So I thought this plant would be a perfect option to put in there. And then I don't know how to pronounce this one exactly. It's a Sempervium pilatus. I also don't know the name of the plant I'm thinking of because I can't remember anything, but there's this really expensive succulent that I always see at nurseries that looks so similar to this, and this guy was really cheap. So you know, I figured I could ball out on a budget and get this guy and kind of have a similar effect to that really expensive plant, whose name, if I can find when I'm editing this video, I will put down here, and if not, then maybe one of you guys will know what I'm talking about. The plant that I was the most excited about acquiring at this Home Depot was this Medusa plant. Now this plant I've actually had saved in my cart on Etsy for like 2 years now. I just never got around to actually purchasing it, but I think it's super fun. It's a type of euphorbia, which is probably my favorite genus of plant, and I also thought it'd be super fun to get like a Medusa goddess style head planter and put this on top of here. It's just gonna look perfect, and yeah, I was over the moon to get this plant. And then of course, last but not least, we've got this gorgeous Mbaki here. I did end up trimming it up a little bit when I got home. There is all the ones that they had there definitely had a bit of browning and crispiness, and just kind of like the leaves were damage stripping probably, but there's a few more places that I could trim up, but he's got a bunch of new leaves coming in, and again, I just think this guy's so beautiful. I've honestly really struggled with Dieffenbachia in the past, but I've also always purchased them really small, so I'm hoping with this guy being a more established plant right off the bat that I have better luck with him. If you guys have any tips for caring for Dunkings, leave them down below, but yeah, super excited, and I just think that this guy is so gorgeous. But with our Home Depot haul over, it was time to continue our journey. At this point, we were only about 20 minutes outside of town, and I was getting super excited. Passed through a little town called Clarkdale, and this is actually where the nursery is itself, right at the base of Jerome. Now, as we approached the nursery in Clarkdale, I decided I was actually going to leave this as my last stop. You know, it'll save the best for last. So I drove past it and continued up towards Jerome. Winding through the switchbacks on the way up the mountain, I came across something that I actually hadn't seen the first time that we passed through Jerome, which was a state park. Now, everything on Jerome kind of sits on the side of a cliff, and I was really confused how a state park was going to fit on the side of this cliff, so I had to go investigate. And while it was less park-like and more museum than anything, honestly, this was one of the highlights of the day for me. Now, as you pull into the parking lot for the state park, there's signs everywhere that prompt you to go inside of paid parking, which was a little confusing for me, but I'm a rule follower, so I went inside, and this is when I discovered that there was actually a full museum in here. Now, the museum is inside the Douglas family's old home, and the Douglas family themselves really were one of the founding members of the town, and they were very involved in mining. Inside here, there's really stuff for everybody. There's old photography from over 100 years ago. There's minerals and gemstones, people who are in that. There are endless antiques, all of which are things that are highly interesting to me. So personally, I really enjoyed myself. I was one of the only people in there, and I will say that this was my first time since arriving in Jerome that I got a bit of an eerie feeling in there. I made my way through the rest of the exhibit pretty quickly after that. When I got back outside to my car, not only was I running tight on time to get back to the nursery, but I couldn't help but notice monsoon clouds were starting to form. And being at the top of the mountain with super curvy roads, I really wanted to get down. Fortunately, I didn't get time to go through all the little shops and restaurants, but there's a ton of cool stuff there. If you're somebody like me who's really interested in the paranormal haunted side of Jerome, be sure to check out or possibly even stay at the Jerome Grand Hotel when you come into town. It used to be an old hospital and asylum, and particularly in room 32, so many people mention crazy stories about seeing ghosts, hearing calling out their name, and all kinds of other crazy stuff. I made my way down the mountains back into Clarkdale and finally pulled into the nursery. Now, I will say from the outside it's a little deceiving. It's called the Arizona Botanical Gardens, and actually when I got inside it was a little hard to distinguish what part of the grounds were for shopping and what parts were just display. First greenhouse that I went into had so many incredible things I've never seen before, and I was so excited about. Fortunately, as I started talking to the man who worked inside the greenhouse, he let me know that most of these items were not for sale, but did kindly point me over to the greenhouse next door so I could find something to purchase. Now, this greenhouse specifically focuses on plants that are desert plants and low water plants, which of course coming from Phoenix is awesome. The thing I will say is if you're native to Arizona, particularly the Phoenix area, a lot of what I was seeing in there isn't necessarily things that I had never seen before, but I think if you were coming from from out of state, you would just be blown away by the variety of stuff that they had in there. Now at this point, I was on a mission to leave with something special. Again, I kept circling around the greenhouse and circling around, and because I was the only person there at the time, they probably didn't care at all, but I felt like the employees there were just like watching me, like, why is this crazy lady just walking in circles around our greenhouse? So finally, out of stress, I made a decision on what to get. And I left with this Cleaver Cactus. Now they had a bunch of plants there that were pre-potted in these handmade looking pots. I don't know if it's handmade or not, but I like to just think for myself that it is. This one was $35, but they have plants there of all different types of price ranges. And while I've had a paper cactus in the past, for some reason when I lived at my last apartment, I had it outside of my patio, and the birds loved this plant so much that they would actually rip it out of its pot constantly, and it ended up dying. But I was super excited to replace it. I always think that these cactus are super cool with the spines that come out of it. And for me, it's always just gonna be a really fun plant to remember my adventures of going out to Jerome. If you've never been there or you've never even heard of Jerome, I would highly recommend it. And even though I was only there for a couple hours and didn't get to experience a lot of what they had to offer, it was so much fun. And if you can't make it up there yet, but still want to live vicariously through somebody houseplant shopping for you, then check out this recent haul that I did from the plant stand of Arizona, that big nursery that I mentioned earlier. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end. Don't forget to hit that like and that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video.